Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. My name's Gary Williams and today we're going to be discussing social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn and so on. Everybody's talking about them. Are they actually relevant to cabaret performers? And if they are, how can we make the most out of them? And to tell us all about it is George Brummer. Welcome to Cabaret Secrets, George.
Hi, Gary.
Or should I say, boa tarde e bem-vindo, because you're originally from Brazil.
Yes. Oh, thank you very much. Your Portuguese is very good.
that's the limit of it. That's all I know. So you've come a long way. You're now in London, and you're a freelance specialist in social media. I looked quickly on your CV. I can see you've had a wide range of work, including managing digital campaigns for politicians, looking after all sorts of media for different business outlets and advertising agencies as well. I want to play devil's advocate with you a little bit because I mean, I like technology. I've got my Facebook account that I'm trying to spend less time on. It's driving me crazy, actually. And for a long time, I didn't have Twitter, but everybody's, it seems to be pervasive in the world now. You have to have a Twitter account. Apparently, we're supposed to be, as performers, trying to promote ourselves, we're supposed to be sending at least 4 tweets a day. I use all of these things, but I still have huge reservations on their relevance to me and whether they are actually making much difference to the number of people that will ultimately part with money for my product, which is buying a CD or coming to see me perform live somewhere. I see that it has some benefit, but I just wonder if I cancelled all of my social media accounts, if it really would make any difference to a small time cabaret performer like me. And I can see the difference it might make for big superstars, but for somebody like me, does it really matter?
I think it especially matter for small business, small businesses, because it's all about the budget and how much we invest on it, actually. Because if you think, if you compare with traditional media, everybody needs media and publicity, right?
You're talking traditional media, you're talking about print and,
exactly.
Advertise, flyers, things like that.
Flyers, radio spots.
And what we used to do before social media.
Exactly, yeah, perfect. So, if you compare with this traditional media and the new digital media, the possibilities with the digital is much higher because you have a much lower need of investment. So, for example, if you need to invest in a spot on the radio, you have to produce it. You have to actually to pay for the spot, which if you are starting your career, you don't have lots of budget to invest on publicity. If it was like a few years ago, that would be much harder than it is now. The thing with Twitter and Facebook and, in general, digital media is actually how you use it. Because, the most common question that comes to me, like from clients and from friends, they say, well, now I have 10 social channels and I just can't administrate all of them because, it's just too much work to do. And my first question is, why do you have 10 channels? And so that's a common mistake that usually people do. They say, well, I have to be on YouTube because my colleagues or my competitors are there. I have to be in all this
I have to be on MySpace, I have to have my Twitter, I have to have my Facebook fan page, my Facebook normal page, got a LinkedIn. I know there are lots more besides.
Yeah.
So, are you saying that we don't need to be on all these things? I'm talking about the people that are listening to this are cabaret performers, people probably starting their career or small careers, that are established, or even some people that are well established but don't really have much of a social media presence. So thinking specifically about those people, do they need to be on all of these social media outlets or just a selected few?
No, they don't have to be in all of them. The first step to start working on social, you have to think what kind of content you have and what kind of media you need to actually spread this content. So that's the thing. The whole thing about digital and social is what you are going to say. Social media is nothing more than a a new way of expand the word of mouth, right? So it's nothing more than instead you're talking to 10 friends you're now when you tweet or when you publish a Facebook post, you're actually talking to much more. Right, it depends
a
on
larger audience,
exactly.
easier. Yeah, instead of having to pick up the phone 10 times or send out 10 letters,
exactly,
as we used to.
Yeah, it's just easier to actually to communicate what you need to do. So actually, the first step is to see what kind of content do you have to offer.
When you say content, what do you mean? What does content mean? Are you talking about what do you mean?
I'm talking about every kind of content. So, for example, first you have to see. What do I usually do? So do I have how to record my my performance? So I have lots of video content. Or
so when you're talking about content, you're talking about things like what's in the posting, what's in what you're spreading to people, whether it's a video clip or an audio clip or information on a gig. Is that what you mean by content?
By content, I mean two things actually. I mean the format of the content and what you are actually will be contained inside this different formats.
So the format is what?
It's like video, audio, photos.
Okay, so we're talking about the video and then what's in it. So let's say from a cabaret singer's point of view, I've got a video clip of a show that I did recently. So that's an example.
So that's the thing. Depending on how many videos you have, you will need to open a YouTube channel, perhaps. But if videos is not something that you do all the time, then perhaps just using your traditional Facebook account would be enough to host it. It's the same. So that's the thing. That's what people actually have to consider when they are going to start a new social channel. For example, if for them it's easy to actually to produce lots of videos and to have at least one, I would say at least 3 videos a week, then it's worth to open, for example, a YouTube channel.
So the first step for anybody is to think, what is it that I'm disseminating to people? What is it that I'm trying to share? What is it I'm trying to share with people? And if it's lots of audio tracks, then you might do that via a SoundCloud account, for example, or maybe even MySpace, I think is quite geared to music. Yeah. If it's video, then it wants to be via a YouTube account, or if it's just information on gigs and shows coming up, it might be a traditional Facebook account.
Or a blog.
Or a blog,
or a blog, yeah. Because what I would recommend for someone, a performer who is starting, is actually to focus on pretty much Facebook, which is a media that involves video, photos, and some audios. You can do some audios with it. Twitter is a good supportive media, and pretty much a blog. It is a way that the performer can actually explain a bit more what they are doing.
So Twitter's like a blog, you mean, or do you mean a blog in addition to Twitter or Facebook? Blog. Twitter to support it, and then a traditional blog where we can go on a little bit more in detail.
Yeah. So a good way to think about it is something like Twitter as a supportive media, Facebook as a more like a dynamic media, and a blog is something where you would write longer pieces of content, like longer texts, or if you have like a longer video and you'd like to talk about the video or write about this video underneath.
When you say Twitter as a supportive media, what do you mean supportive?
We call it 360 degrees media. Is actually because it's something that will redirect people to your other media. So, for example, you use the Twitter to say to people, for example, if you have a new post on your blog, then you use more Twitter like that, because Twitter is really hard to actually to concentrate sometimes a bigger piece on 140 50 characters,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it can be really complicated.
Anybody who's not sure about what we're talking about, Twitter, you've got just 140 characters to make your posting. So it's like a text, isn't it? On a mobile phone, there's very little space to say something. So the best way to use it, as you're suggesting, is to say, hey, check out my new video, here's the link. Or check out my new blog, here's the link.
Because also Twitter, sometimes they give you, there are lots of tools related with Twitter where you can see how many people clicked on the link as well, and then you can see how much effective they are. So if this kind of content you are doing are being very well clicked, or if it needs to change. But what I think it's important actually to mention is also to, when you're talking about a kind of content, it's important for different performers to select a theme and talk about this theme. Because what is happening now, the advertisement industry, the whole advertising industry is moving to being less passive and going to more to active media. So what you have to do is actually to offer something for people's attention. You have to offer a content, it's what is called actually branded content. So when people are in your channel or are in a business channel, they are open to receive some publicity, but actually why they are there, you have to think how your public think. They are there because they want to know more about you, or perhaps they want to know more about the act.
So what you mean is that instead of us just saying to our followers, our fans, oh, hey, come and see my new show or come and buy my new album, what people really want to hear a lot is, oh, you know, we had a really terrible journey on the way to the gig because this happened and we broke down, we had to or some personal story, or this is, you know, these are my influences, or this, look at a picture of my new dog. Do they want to see this kind of thing?
Yes, I mean, I think this kind of content is also important, especially if you are a performer. You have people who admire you, you have like fans, and usually fans use social media to get to feel a bit closer to the performer. So yeah, they do want to know a little bit more about your personal stories. But what I was saying before is actually, for example, if you have an act that is quite focused on one kind of content or one theme, for example, if I saw a lady that performs goth poems. So she probably have lots of people who are into goth culture.
Gothic stuff, yeah.
Gothic, yes. So it's also interesting to share other stuff that are related to the culture.
Oh, so things which she might find interesting about goths online. Somebody might send her a video or a link that's not actually relevant to her directly, but it's still relevant to her fans.
Exactly.
So her social media presence is a platform for sharing things with her followers that, you know, which everybody that follows that might be interested in.
Exactly. That's a way where you can actually have a higher volume of fans, because sometimes people are not, they don't need to be directly interested on cabaret specifically. But if you have people who are interacting with you, and for example, this gothic culture, she can, for example, say, oh yeah, I buy my accessories or my clothes in this specific store. So it's also some relationships that can grow from social media.
So if I found an interest, because I sing swing and jazz, Sinatra type stuff, so if I found a really interesting bit of archive video on Frank Sinatra that not many people had seen, and I posted that, I know that people who follow me are going to be interested in seeing that, and it's going to have them more engaged in what I'm doing and saying, because I'm giving them things which are of interest.
Exactly. And I mean, of course, even if you can write something about it, and why do you like it, why is it so nice, and people will be interested to know your point of view over the video they like too. So it's actually a way you make people to interact with you, because it's not only about the numbers, it's not only about having lots of followers. What's important about social media is actually to keep the conversation going.
Right, yes, as in normal life. So the first step, going back, the first step is to figure out what we've got to share and the best ways to doing that. So if it's lots of videos, we want to be on YouTube. If it's just a few videos and a few audio files, it can just be on Facebook. We're using Twitter to support that. And the second step is then to look at what we've got to share and start sharing it with people, but trying to augment that with other media that we know our followers will be interested in as well.
Exactly. So, for example, I have another friend who... in her cabaret act is more related with vintage culture, and so she's always, for example, showing ways where you can comb your hair in a 1950s style and giving ideas about that. And also she was also mentioning some stores where you can buy accessories and clothes that are related to this kind of culture, and even how to sometimes do it yourself, some stuff to change your accessories and things like this.
You know, the most that my followers have been engaged is when I've asked them a very simple question. Anybody who follows me will know that recently I made a new album, and I got the designer, gave half a dozen designs for the cover. I couldn't decide between two, and they were very different. So I just asked that question on my Facebook page, which do you prefer, this one or that one? Just one word answer. And it had a tremendous response from people because it was very quick for people to respond to, and people enjoyed doing that, and they enjoyed having a say in, because I said to them, whichever you vote for, I will use, and people enjoyed that, and it had a huge response, much more than if I just said, here's my new album cover, what do you think?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, social media is pretty much as a flirting. You know, you have to keep the conversation going. So actually asking questions, you are making people to interact with you. So, of course, we're not trying to make a questionnaire there or interrogation section. But actually, it's important to think in ways where you can publish something thinking on how people will answer. And of course, keeping it simple is a very good way. There is a rule that's not very nice to say, but I mean, there's a rule when you are dealing with big audiences is actually, they say, when you are in big groups, you don't want to think much. I mean, it's something like, don't make me think.
Yeah.
So actually, if we do posts that are too complicated, or for example, sometimes I see some promotions and things like that. You have to subscribe there, and then you have to come back here, and then you get the code over there, and then you publish it, and then perhaps you can get a bar of chocolate.
Too much work.
It's just too much work. It doesn't work.
I noticed what I've seen on a lot of people's blogs. They'll write an interesting article, and at the end of it, they'll say, so what do you think about this? Or share your thoughts on it. And I've started to do that, and it makes a difference because there was an article I posted at a tribute to a fellow called David Jacobs, a radio presenter who recently passed away. And I wrote my little story about him, my little tribute to him. Now, at one time, I would have written my tribute, full stop, the end, and people would have read it and thought, oh, that was nice, or whatever, and they would have moved on. Just by adding at the bottom, share your stories and thoughts on David Jacobs, here, click here to share your thoughts on David Jacobs, or how he impacted your life, or your favorite David Jacobs story, or something like that. And a lot of people responded like that. But I know that had I not asked the question, of course they wouldn't. Why would they say anything? Because I haven't asked them to do anything. So it's a really simple thing, just one line, but it makes a big difference.
And I think this is the first step. Actually, I believe that all the posts, they have to have at least one question, one call to action. That's what do you think about it? But if you think in a second stage, you can go a bit deeper than that. So you can actually write the whole post thinking on how to engage your audience. So, for example, if you write your personal comments or your personal ideas about something, this is something that will make people feel like giving their personal ideas as well, especially if they don't agree with you. So some strategies that some brands and some people use is actually to be a bit controversial. So I'm not saying to go on streams, but sometimes if you are a little bit controversial, use also a way where you can instigate more people to actually open a dialogue with you and start actually a relationship
You mentioned earlier on it's not just about numbers, it's about engagement.
Exactly.
When I first got a Twitter account, I was embarrassed that I had, 4 followers, and I tried to get it lots of followers, and I found a way online to basically, bits of software that can sort of trick the systems into, I don't know how it works, but suddenly overnight I had 1,000 followers and felt very pleased with myself and very popular. But of course, a year later, I was looking at it and I thought, there are 1,000 or not, whatever, it got up to 1,000 and 1,500 or something, and only 500 of them were actually knew who I was.
Exactly.
And so it took me a long time, because I went through and actually forced unfollow most of those people, because I thought, this is stupid. This is just a cosmetic thing. I don't need to do that now. I'm happy if I've just got 200 people, even 50 people that are following me that actually really are interested in what I'm doing. So I went through all of them one by one. I was like, no. Oh yes, you. No, you. Yeah. And I feel a lot happier about that now. And it's the same with Facebook as well. I think people can get a little bit hung up on having thousands of followers, which at the end of the day seems to me that it's just irrelevant.
Exactly. This actually was something that was very common at the beginning of social media, that was pretty much like buying followers or constructing scripts that are those tiny robots that start following you. But actually, this is a old way to see, is seeing the new media with traditional media eyes.
Yes.
Because, in the old days, if you need a spot on radio or on TV, what do? You simply buy it. Right, and nowadays what is happening is actually people, the publicity is much more related to the kind of quality you have. So it doesn't really makes a difference if you have 1,000 followers that are mute, that doesn't do anything. It's actually much better to have a small number of people who are talking to you, right? So I would never recommend people to buy followers or to increase as we say, in a non-organic way.
Yes. See, it's interesting. At the beginning, I was telling you my suspicions of social media, saying, "Well, is it just a waste of time?" But actually, I made it a bit of a waste of time for myself by falsely adding all of these phony followers to my Twitter, because of course it was irrelevant. I might have had 1,020 followers, only 20 of whom knew me, so I'd made it irrelevant for myself. If there were 20 people only following me that really were interested and really did have a high chance of buying one of my new albums, then I'd feel, that was good, that Twitter thing, because I told them that I'm making a new album, and 25% of them, i.e. 5, went out and bought it.
Also, because a number that's very important for us is when you actually have the number of followers or the number of fans you have and the number of conversion. And conversion can be or when you sell a product or when you, for example, you sell a ticket. So it's pretty much the number of tickets sold by the number of followers you have. And of course, and then when you divide it, you have like a kind of a percentual. And if you have like too many followers and you just sold like, for example, 10 tickets, actually this percentual won't be very big.
You know what, it's like years ago in a different business, I used to buy, traditional media, I used to buy addresses, do for mail shots. And there might be 20 or 30,000 mailings that we do, and we look to get a 3% conversion rate from the product that we were selling to the people that would actually buy. But of course the trick was in spending the money on a very good quality mailing list, because if I spent the money on a poor quality mailing list, even if it was to 30,000, but if most of them weren't interested, then my conversion rate's going to be very low, whole thing's a waste of time. And this is the thing with social media, because there's less of a pressure on that, because if I'm buying a mailing list, it's expensive to buy mailing lists, it's expensive to stick a stamp on something. So I'm thinking every time it's probably costing me, maybe 80 pence per item and I will need value from this. So I want to make sure that these is really high quality. And this is the thing with social media, that it doesn't cost anything more, does it, to broadcast my message to 20 people or to 20,000 people? And that's why we've not been traditionally so concerned about the quality of our followers, of our fans in social media. But actually, at the end of the day, even though it's not cost us anymore, it's sort of it's just as much of a waste of time, isn't it?
Well, I mean, with social media, it's funny because you have to think in a way that is a media that's cheaper than the traditional media, but it's not for free because it gives you lots and lots of work. Yes. It's also that's why that's why I tell people to focus on maximum 3 main media, because then you can do it well done. If you have like 10 channels, it will be really actually hard to give enough attention to all of them, because actually you have to respond everybody, you have to interact with people, and just coming back to what you said before, what's important about is this HQE, what is high quality engagement.
Oh, I like that. I'm loving all these buzzwords I'm learning today.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're here to explain them.
Well, this is something actually I had to learn also, because I mean in Brazil we use different kind of jargons and different acronyms.
Oh, we use lots here as well, yeah.
So when I came here, people were just actually having the same acronyms in English, and then I couldn't really understand what all these letters were. Right. The thing is, it's a cheaper media, but it's not a free media. So what I would recommend, if you do have budget to invest on it, instead of buying followers, you could, for example, promote your posts on Facebook, or you could invest on Facebook ads. You have many different publicity products on Facebook and on Twitter to increase the number of followers in a better quality of followers. Yes. Because then, for example, you can focus your ads to Cabaret for people who put Cabaret in their interests, for example. So you focus that ad to a specific group of people. Also, you just pay per click. So, for example, if a person that's not really interested, the person won't click on your ad. What's actually good for you, because then you didn't spend that specific click.
The traditional media equivalent of that is me only having to pay for the stamp when someone's opened the letter. If they look at the outside of it and they think I'm not interested in that and they put it in the bin, it would be great if the Royal Mail didn't charge me for actually posting it. And that's the benefit that we've got on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, it's if they read your letter or not. I mean, you paid for it already, right? This with the click system, they call it PPC, pay per click. It's actually good because you just pay for people who actually clicks on your ad. Of course, you have other systems that's called pay per 1,000, when it's like your ad shows 1,000 times for a random group of people, and is a bit cheaper, but I would not recommend it because
it's less quality.
Exactly.
Somebody told me that you should be, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, that you should be sending out at least four tweets or Facebook posts every day to keep our fans engaged. Now, my response to that is, well, that's great as long as you've got 4 very interesting, engaging things to say. But my problem as a user of social media is that it's overwhelming. I'm following people and I'm getting sent all this. I don't read. I read a tiny percentage of it because there's so much. I'd be on it all day seeing what, and also a lot of it frustrates me because it's nonsense. I'm not interested in, if someone's just bought a train ticket for something, or someone's bought a nice new pair of socks, and people post a lot of rubbish on Twitter and Facebook, and so it puts me off reading it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. What's something that's another part of social media that people don't remember a lot that happens when you are dealing with social media in a professional way, as we do in advertisement agencies. We actually have to sit down and to plan the whole content for the month, pretty much.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so actually there are also some platforms, I can tell in the end, that helps you to plan all your content and everything. But what happens, for example, we have like a planning team which sits together and think, okay, what's going to happen this month? And then they plan all the content week by week. It's true that are some recipes that says, well, you should at least do three tweet posts a day, 3 or 4, one Facebook post a day, something like that. But what's really important about is what are you going to say? It's better to don't publish anything than just publish good morning. I remember my first work in a social media agency. Nobody knew exactly what to do. I mean, was very, very new. Not even the client knew. And I remember the first thing we do when you get in the office is actually to write good morning. And I think, well, nowadays, many years after that, I think this is actually it's not what people want to see. I mean, they don't want you to say good morning to them. I mean, 1,000 people are already saying good morning, good night, and good afternoon. So actually, what is important, I don't think that all tweets have to be brilliant, but you have to at least have one content tweet a day. So we think, for example, a content tweet is actually a tweet that will engage people, and the other tweets can be like supportive tweets, which will lead people to your Facebook or to your personal website or fan page.
So what we're posting should be funny, interesting, informative in some way, and not just sort of banal, boring nonsense.
Exactly, because it's not only to say that you are there. When you just say good morning, it's like to say, oh yeah, hello, I'm here, remember me.
Yeah.
But people are not really interested about that anymore.
Okay, so to summarize, you said at the beginning the first step for anybody to do is to be aware of what it is that they want to say. What's the point of sending out a blog? What are they trying to achieve when they send a tweet? Are they just trying to sell product, or just make themselves more popular, just gain an audience, and so on? Once they've decided what they've got to share, that will then dictate the platforms, the channels that they need. So if they're going to be sending lots of photographs out to people, they want to be sharing lots of photos, they might want to have a Flickr account. If it's lots of video, it's obviously going to be YouTube. If it's lots of writing, that it's going to be on a blog, and so on. Next thing is to keep it relevant, and though we do want to be posting maybe 3 or 4 tweets or bits of information every day, that if we haven't got anything relevant, engaging, interesting, funny to say, that it's better to not to post it at all. And you were saying something about sharing content that's not necessarily about us, but that's going to be of interest to our followers. Yeah.
Yes. Also, to not forget to plan in advance.
And the planning, yes. So think about maybe a year in advance, but at least a month in advance, and what's happening this month, what have we got to say, and using something like Hootsuite to plan and prepare 80% of the posts, so that all that work's taken from us. We don't have to keep looking at doing that throughout the month, so it's a bit more planned and less random, so we can spend our time responding to our followers to keep the engagement up, to ask questions as well, so that we do keep people engaged, and interestingly to adapt the language so that we're not just posting exactly the same thing on Twitter, on Facebook and on our blog, that we could be talking about the same thing but we're using different language to spread the word, and then eventually to consider paid advertisement as well, pay-per-click. So if we've got something really interesting to say, that we can target that to people that might be interested in reading about it, to widen our own audience.
And what's also interesting about this Facebook ads is something like you actually, and pay-per-click in general, you establish how much you want to spend. So it's not something like astronomical values. You can spend, for example, £100, £200. And usually I would say that, according to my experience, the numbers are very good. So usually I see that about £100 values about 200 followers, extra fans on Facebook and something like that. So, and usually they are very high quality followers and fans in general.
Thank you so much for talking to us today.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure for me.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.